circumstances. I think that it truly is anybody's game here. I'm excited for Chalet and to see what DarkZero can possibly produce on that, but we have to get through Chalet first and see who is our victor inside of this first map here on the best of 3.
Let's do it. Thatcher going to be knocked off the board immediately by DarkZero, following the usual trends. We've been seeing him get banned out pretty heavily. And even when he hasn't been banned, honestly, his pick rate for quite a few teams has been relatively low aside from that. So Thatcher definitely not the most popular operator in the pool right now. FURIA getting their first ban on the board are going to move towards Maverick as we move on to the defenders following that.
So offense limiting that hard destruction and possibly getting rid of a lot of those pesky issues with those EMP grenades. Either way, though, Mira will be removed for the defenders, so make things a little bit more difficult, especially for bar holds as well as library and a lot of other places that we've seen Mira be utilized recently. Well, Mai will follow suit as well, so make things a little bit easier in that utility burn category. So going to be seeing more than likely a lot of laser gates and Jaeger come into play, but round 1 is on the board now, folks. FURIA up first on offense, DarkZero starting things off on defense.
Let's get right into it here. DarkZero going to be going towards a kitchen and dining defense initially. And aside from that, the utility we're going to be seeing leaves us with a very roam-heavy composition, just looking at the spread of operators. We are going to get a 6 pick, so we'll see if we get something a little bit more interesting. And I would say so if that's going to get locked in. Skies go for the Capcan pick on the first round here. We're also going to see a very nice 6 pick from FURIA, as they're going to be picking up an IQ, which under these circumstances will end up being very useful.
Oh, yes, you cannot blame them at all, especially with the 6 pick here from Skies coming in. Oh!
What was that?
Yeah, somebody thought that he had to catch them all very early this morning, John. That's what happened. So I think they're playing the wrong game and ended up half-healthing 2 of their teammates. So we'll see if that works out in the end. Very unlikely enough. Obviously, nobody really playing Doc inside of competitive, so won't be able to assist them through that means. But either way, what we're going to break down is the simple fact that there is a metric load of stuff here for FURIA to work through with IQ. We're talking Mute, Vigil, Mozzie, as well as those Capcan traps. All that Fantasy will have access through IQ Scanner.
All play into the delay game that's very popularly used, not just on this site, but the upstairs hold as well. This site slowly working its way into the fold, as we've seen over the past week or 2 of play now. Teams incorporating this sighting quite heavily, despite it being a bit of an ugly duckling in the regional play, at least for North America, before this event started up. Well, we've got FURIA out on the board. They're going to be starting things out in terms of the drone work anyway, the quick clear of the car garage, which should give them some easy access to the basement and at least a beginning to start working through the rest of this map.
And this is going to be a kitchen offense. This is something that we don't necessarily see, at least inside of our region, John, inside of North America. We haven't seen very many squads try and go for this kind of north clear here, taking control of the garage down low. This is actually kind of resembling a prior Chalet offense from this side. Take control down low, start popping beneath trophy and try and get some frags or force that trophy player to move. But obviously things have changed up in recent history with the map changes. No longer a bomb site being inside of trophy. So big garage, not as valuable as it once was. Obviously can still use that area. It's kind of a starting grounds for the rest of FURIA as they're continuing to process through this basement. Just really worried about what DarkZero can possibly produce on this roam, especially with Eclipse on that Vigil.
Fantasy still looking for the top-down cross, but not going to find it as he crosses the threshold, moving up the main stairs, and will take some time for him to get into the action, but that's certainly going to be a powerful position to play from here, especially if the rest of FURIA can commit themselves to the upstairs clear. That's the problem, though. That job has not been completed as of yet, so it could be some threats from above, specifically from DZ, if FURIA decide to execute on their current path. You can see, though, on the side over by Solarium to the top left of Fantasy's POV, there is some membership there on FURIA trying to work on dealing with that now as they hold some control upstairs. Enough at least to force out the pressure from the inside of the bedroom where the immediate counter to top-down pressure on the take would come from. But here's the other issue. The pressure inside of the site itself still has not been dealt with, and that allows for Skies to pick up so far an untraded kill against Fantasy, giving DarkZero the early advantage.
Oh, too many issues right now for FURIA that I don't believe that they're aware of. Hyper prepared for this next one. Those ones inside of trophy. Wow, has quite a few angles here to be able to abuse. up against these FURIA members, but High's finally shooting back. They'll get their first frag of the round, but it's in the dying moments now. 30 seconds remaining for FURIA to try and get this case down, as they do indeed get that opening frag, but DarkZero still have DZ members waiting around, lying in wait as Hyper currently sees the head of the Hibana, takes him down, but not before Lenda takes down NJR. Still a 3v3. Hyper doing his best to defend the site. Case control in Rare's hands, so he'll smoke off the main angle. Thermite just getting those, as we heard in recent history, but it's going to be a move from Eclipse into West Main to take down the Thermite. Case control in Nomad's hands, but it's a refrag once again, down to Hyper in the 1v1, and he'll lock it up on timer. He just simply has to find Miracle, and round one will go to the defense, but FURIA won't even allow that. Instead, play for the KD as DZ defends successfully inside of Kitchen.
Past zero timer, so letting go of the plan at that point triggers an immediate round loss for FURIA. They will take the L on that one. Some nice, slow and methodical play from DarkZero. Honestly, never really giving up any of their positions, just letting FURIA play directly into them, and that's exactly what FURIA did there. DarkZero not needing to extend their strategy too far beyond the initial setup there in order to shut down that attack. Gives them a comfortable first round, a confident one at that too. Even though it comes down to the 1v1, they hold pretty solid control over it the entire time, in my opinion, and now they shift down towards the basement for their second site.
I really liked what FURIA did there. I think that their main game plan with that is to be able to get some really strong cutoffs upstairs around Solarium and be able to deal with that roam game while the pressure is going on to site. Try to get the cross set up with IQ inside of West Main and start applying pressure from there, so that IQ has the possibility to possibly abuse dining as well as help with the kitchen engagement, and then start trying to get the case down once that area is cleared out, deal with that roam game with those top players. But that's not exactly what happened. We saw the trades ensuing back and forth, DarkZero staying on top of things, but mostly Hyper inside of site, keeping things locked down and just making things extremely difficult for the game plan that FURIA was currently going with.
All right, so let's take a look and see what the basement setup's going to look like from DarkZero. A far extension from the site right now, as they're going to be reinforcing some of the walls around bathroom, master bedroom once again in order to allow for play here. You can see just how far away this goes from the OBJ, so we will see how well this very extensive play out from the site is going to work for our current defenders, or if it will ultimately come back down to bite them if they're not able to keep control of things, if the large majority of the attack tries to funnel down on that. We're going to see some players moving immediately towards that garage panel leading into the site. Going to take a moment, of course, to try and open it, but as you will see, not going to be a whole lot in ways of resistance on that, save from a mute jammer. So this is going to go off very quickly, and there's no one here to defend it. But regardless of that, DarkZero seem to be shutting things down. That's, of course, until the large majority of these players get themselves into more threatening positions. Still, though, DarkZero holding on regardless. Hyper with a quick response against Fantasy. Hyper again does it from the edge of Blue Hall, leaving it all up to Rare in a 1v4. And scratch that, it's done. Sky strikes again, and DarkZero close out the second round, fending off the rush play once more with relative ease.
The comms just too clean on the situation right there for DarkZero, and it didn't even seem like that was truly that sealed the deal inside of round two. It was mostly FURIA getting caught off guard on the entry. We could see Nomad's body laying inside of the trench hallway on the back end near the Weinstock door, as well as we saw the entry point from Rare and the rest of FURIA on the snowmobile garage panels. So it was a nice effort there by the Thermite to push in, be able to take down what I believe to be the mute player inside of Wine, but it truly wasn't worth anything at the end of the day. DarkZero eliminate over half of the FURIA members on entry and simply just dust the rest of them once they're able to be found. That was truly it. The DarkZero man advantage was just too far gone. FURIA are too deep into sight to be able to try and recuperate from anything. It was just too difficult for them. So round three already up and ready for DarkZero, as they'll be moving to bar stock.
FURIA had a lot of confidence brewing into that round, to be fair, and had reason to believe that they would have been able to make it work, considering they had both the car garage entry from the north side of the map as well as the obvious site garage wall opening due to dealing with those mute jammers so quickly. Just wasn't expecting, as you mentioned there, DarkZero themselves to be so ready to fend off an attack that quickly, and as such, they pay the price for their brash actions there. FURIA still without a round on the board here as we enter the third, and we extend to what, for now at least, is going to be the final point on DarkZero's site triangle. They're going to be going over here towards bar, I believe, to try and secure one more round before being able to go back to site they've already controlled earlier inside of this half.
I mean, I'll be the first one to admit, John, they are running a little bit of a nuisance setup, at least in the last 2 rounds, right? Especially for the info game, the Mute Mozzie and Vigil combo. And that might be why Furia didn't necessarily want to try and deal with their own game or anything like that. Just rush down the site, especially with that setup being what it is. You'd think that there's going to be people on roam upstairs, maybe catch DarkZero off guard. But it just seemed like maybe too bit of an early strike. We'll see if it changes up inside of this round. But DarkZero going away from that game plan. We brought Aruni in as well as Frost, who's been seeing quite a bit of play recently on this site.
Certainly the case, and not the only form of utility mitigation we're seeing brought to the table. Jaeger's still in play, obviously, with Skies taking up the mantle on that one. Lots more delay utility as well. Once again, similar to round 1, a very mobile composition rolling out for DarkZero. Probably going to be staying that way on any similar sites they try to play on throughout the rest of this half. FURIA, at the same time, seem to have taken a much more respectful approach to the early game here, not trying to push in and apply too much pressure early on, save for the parts of the map that they are relatively gifted by DZ due to them playing a much more centered defense around the site this time.
It almost feels like a requirement, though, with how DarkZero are trying to defend this top floor. You can see that they have Hyper out here on the library balcony, as well as some assistance here at the top of blue from NJR. Nice crosses set up. He'll be running the FMG9 with that 1.5. We've been seeing that a lot more often inside of these smoke lineups, especially for these longer distance gunfights. That M590 SMG11, yes, a very strong gun setup, but not the best when you're dealing with gunfights 25 to 30 meters away. Exactly where Linda and the rest of Furia will be standing. But DarkZero have done such a bang-up job so far of delaying time. No real utility usage here from Furia besides drones. Still have plenty of their secondary utility, all except for Miracle, as they're still trying to figure out how DZ are holding down this top floor.
Fantasy still leading in, looking for the opening opportunity. Unfortunately, NJR is not making it easy in any respect. These toxic babes coming up from his smoke constantly from the top position on blue stairs. You can see on the left side of your screen right now. So Furia take a step back. This will be their last step back as they only have 35 seconds left here. The next commitment more than likely needs to be the last one here, as aside from that, they're not going to leave themselves enough time to even get into the site, let alone take control. Keep in mind, they're not attacking the second floor and library. They're attacking the rooms below that, and they've barely gotten control of library itself on top of the site with only 20 seconds remaining. We have to see some sort of aggression coming out from Furia, but we're just not seeing it right now. 14 seconds remaining. This is going to be a tough ask, to say the least, here as we go into the final seconds. The meltdown begins. Lenda, the first to fall. A trade from Fantasy, yes, but where are the other players? They're starting to funnel into the site to no avail here, as it's all DarkZero all day, and eventually the timer runs out, netting them their 3rd round on defense.
Furia simply cannot game plan past what DarkZero are doing to them right now. They go for the top clear, and JR with some fantastic plays to hold down that top blue hallway area, and able to use those smokes to continue to combat Furia back, as well as just simply playing out the rest of their positioning extremely well. I mean, Hyper holding down on the library, not overextending and trying to get into any gunfights, just simply knowing that Furia are more than likely going to take too much time and they'll be able to fall back, and that's exactly what happened. We still see some rotations from DarkZero down low, because they obviously were holding the bottom of blue stairs just to make sure that no one could possibly rotate up or get easy access to games or bar from that means. So it was just very well done from DarkZero, but I will say this is definitely on Furia as of right now. They're not making DarkZero sweat in the slightest. Inside of that round, we didn't see a single one of DarkZero's members move from their starting positions until about 30 seconds left on the clock, where they finally dropped off and just said, hey, Furia are going to have to force their way in upstairs, so we might as well play the situation out 5v5 on site instead of possibly losing 2 on entry, and they actually have 20 seconds to play with.
Yeah, would not be surprised if we see a pause call come out here from Furia should round 4 end up yielding the same results as past rounds. You're looking at fragging power just not really being there right now for Furia. Look at their total kills, only about 2 per round of the 3 that have been played. The strategy, things are not really working out, and that's not really due to them not bringing a good breadth of strategy. They've tried to vary it on 2 or 3 different occasions here now, but to no success. So just from the core element of their attack, it's not working right now, and they may have to take a moment after this round if the issues continue to see what is really going wrong.
Truthfully, like right now wouldn't it have even been the worst time for a tactical timeout. If you guys didn't know, Chalet's actually the worst defensive win rate map at SI currently, with a 42% overall win rate for the defense. So FURIA already down 3 rounds. They need to collect themselves and see if they can possibly get these next 3 in the bag. Because as of right now, they haven't been able to slow down DZ in the slightest, especially Hyper, who's still 5-0-0.
Here's the other problem too. DarkZero are probably going to start fueling themselves over the next couple of rounds here, and we would probably see an increase in their own aggression, which is going to cause FURIA, by necessity, more than likely to have to play slower, or at least spend more time on drones to confirm those more extended positions from DarkZero. Now, that could translate into something good for FURIA. If DarkZero play too aggressively, obviously they're not going to have good trade setups, and there's some potentials for early round OKs that can't be traded to come out from FURIA. But you know, it's going to be a far cry from what we're seeing now before FURIA is going to be able to take advantage of that. As unfortunately, they're just not making the impact in the early, mid, or late round here, and it's all DarkZero all day. Hopefully we see that change at some point here, though, as once again we've got a slow clear coming out from them as they begin to take some control towards Library. Fantasy on the front lines for that.
Concussion. My turn.
Looks like we are going to have the initial pick, and it's not the way that the offense wants. Instead, it's Eclipse taking down Miracle. No more air jabs to be able to use, and Highs finding Eclipse down low as well, so nice reach frag here, but definitely giving that to the offense, especially after Hyper seals the deal. It's going to be a 2-for-1 trade as FURIA are getting picked to pieces, all from different ends, all the way around Chalet. So far, this has been a textbook by DZ on these separate angles, as well as roam strategy they've been able to utilize to, well, destroy FURIA on these entries. They're down 2 already. It's down to Zoe, Sledge, and Thermite. Definitely doable, but DarkZero definitely look to be in the driver's seat, but not before Fantasy is able to take down Hyper.
Fantasy definitely making a good effort on the inside of this round there, picking up a kill that certainly brings the team back into the fold at a minimum to even things out at a 3v3. Problem is going to be moving it forward from here, though, as FURIA has struggled to transition onto site. This is probably one of the better looking rounds they've had for that, though. We're going to see still some hard breach in the arsenal for Rare, allowing him to open up the double wall leading into dining room, but that's a big loss. So unfortunate. NJR on the SMG-11 gets a quick pick against Fantasy, who's been the leading player for FURIA on the inside here with smoke as well. Completely covers off their attacking angle, and even worse, it fades as they go into the site. There's something to write home about, though, as Lenda gets a quick snipe onto NJR to take him out of play. Sky's trying to play aggressively, but the smoke that did go off without a hitch is not going to pan out. Even worse, Mint doesn't have the cross angle. They're going to try and secure the plant for themselves now, and like I said, Mint can't seem to find the player. Will he get this angle? Doesn't look like it. Oh, no! At the final moment, Lenda gets it instead, shuts down Mint, and finally puts FURIA on the board here in round 4.
Oh, that was very scary there for FURIA for just a split second. That smoke bounces back off of the reinforcement and smokes them off as well. But very luckily enough, Sky's not able to see the Thermite attempting to plant behind the bomb chassis once he exits the smoke. A rear also through at Kitchen. So FURIA making it by the skin of their teeth, but it's still around and one that they needed desperately. Now on to round 5 and what the game plan is for that. They're going to be attacking the basement once again. This is what we saw inside of round 2, where they went for that very quick execute through garage. Also had a trench player try to hop into the fray, but Miracle getting dusted as soon as he enters trench door. We'll see if FURIA tries to slow things up and possibly catch another round here on this basement offense.
There's that pause coming in there. That
I was assuming so, because it froze, and I was like, I didn't know what's going on.
See it in front of you there on the left side. FURIA taking their tactical after a 1 round as well, so this is a really good analysis point for them, lets them dig into, obviously, you know, the really rough time they were having in the first 3 rounds, as well as what actually went correct for them inside of round 4 that was just played out there for themselves. Very close affair, but still finally putting them on the board. That's what's important here, as Sam had mentioned. Generally speaking, this map has tended to trend towards the attack, although this event's been a little bit weird for attacker-defender splits. The maps have been really topsy-turvy in that respect, so not too surprising to see DarkZero taking an advantage on the defensive side, just due to the relative lack of prowess we've been seeing coming out from FURIA so far in this matchup. Obviously, that last run, though, a big change up for them, some good pacing, as well as a very good way to attack the site in that end 3v3, even despite the whiffed smoke grenade that ended up coming out for them there.
Yeah, I really do like the FURIA setup overall, especially what they're bringing operator-wise. I like the amount of soft destruction paired with the Nomad. I think that it fits their playstyle extremely well. They're worried about the possible rotations from DZ, and they damn well should be because of the setup that DZ does continue to run with the Vigil and Mozzie, sometimes working the Mute in there. This time they have Kaid. But either way, FURIA's lineup, definitely strong. I like the Thermite pick as well with those smokes coming in with that recent smoke change happening. I wasn't even aware of that until like 2 days ago about that Thermite getting smokes and Ace losing them. So definitely makes more sense as to why we're seeing the Thermite play more often, and you can see how FURIA are utilizing those as well. Smoke's extremely strong in certain scenarios, and that's why we've seen a little bit of Warden play here at SI, where teams are picking him up for some of those longer distance engagements where smokes are more than likely going to be used on entries by the offense, or even paired with your own smoke on defense. We've even seen some of that play as well.
So taking a look at the basement setup once again, coming out from DarkZero as we move into the 5th round. 2 more to go on this half before the teams flip sides. And FURIA takes on the mantle of the defense, possibly allowing for them to swing back in a little bit more should the rest of this half not be too friendly towards them. Not going to see the immediate extension. Here we go. Now we're starting to see a little bit of that flare come in towards the 2nd floor once again, as we get it instead from NJR, along with the Mozzie currently being played by Hyper. Once again, going to be playing quite heavily into the 2nd floor position, was able to abuse that quite heavily on the last site defense here, and is going to be looking to do so once again against this FURIA attack to slow them down and leave them straggling for time, as has been an issue for them in multiple rounds here.
Well, during that break, John, we talked about how DarkZero were usually on this Vigil Mozzie Mute setup, but before we had the Kaid for Skies, now the 6 pick away and the Mute back into the lineup, and you can see exactly why, as you were talking about. It's an extended hold for DarkZero all the way upstairs. The run game for them now on Chalet, and this can be high risk, high reward. As we've grown to know here on the new Chalet, and even the old Chalet, there is a lot of cutoffs on this map, especially around Fireplace Hall. So we'll see how DarkZero want to deal with that. Is this roam game set up for them to just simply exist up here and die, or exactly what is the game plan? We'll have to see, as this will be the first time FURIA pushes into this.
Continuing to tick down here. A little bit of an exchange between Lenda and I believe Hyper on the outskirts of the building. Hyper just barely surviving that at a single sliver of HP as he backs up next to the piano, and will play out here for at least a few more moments. Falling back is not going to be the easiest thing in the world due to such an extended play coming out from DarkZero, but it doesn't think there's adequate support. Here's the problem, though, with such an extensive network being set up across the entire map, is this allows for players to sneak past it on those few areas they don't have complete control of. They rotate through the hatch. It's going to catch NJR. He's going to go down, and FURIA, for the time being, will have the definitive advantage.
Yeah, roam setups are all fun and games, so you realize that info is still the king of Rainbow Six, and that's the biggest issue here, is they just simply didn't have insight as to where FURIA were inside of this mid floor. Obviously, not having a Valk or anything in this lineup, they're going to have to simply lean on those default cameras. So either way, FURIA will begin breaking up this basement area, and their main focal point right now is going to be Wine, as they're able to get, well, the east wall breached here, as well as a Mute Jammer gone. DarkZero are able to find a frag, so they'll at least be able to equalize in that regard. Remember, Hyper still on very low HP, as Lenda will slightly body block Rare. Rare will take a couple of shots, but nothing to call home about just yet. Lenda will deal with a Mute Jammer there as well, but DZ attentive to the situation.
I'm going to go outside here for a moment as they breach the wall, just to make sure no one from DarkZero are going to try anything aggressive, whether it's in the form of a nitro cell or an outright swing. Although swing probably wouldn't have worked out too well under those circumstances. Lenda with a lineup now, and a more well-placed shot to take down Min. Unfortunately, going to get caught trying to throw out the frag, but it may still make impact. Probably deals with the shield at a minimum, assuming it did go out. But no, Eclipse actually still has his to play behind here as we enter those final 10 seconds. The stragglers from FURIA, only 2 of them remaining, having to push in against Eclipse, who's not aware of the angle of the push. Can they get the case down in time, though? Yes, they can, and even better, Miracle can find the next pick. Eliminates Hyper, sets up another round win for FURIA, as they're running through a gauntlet at this point. 2 in a row for them, only 1 away from the tie as we enter the final round of the half.
FURIA simply wins out the gunfights on site. Great job to them, especially on getting those panels open in such quick succession, really making it difficult for DarkZero to keep multiple sight lines on those single panels. So either way, FURIA very nice on the entry. I would just more or less chalk that up to what they were able to produce upstairs. Yes, the transition to down low is obviously very strong, but to be able to take down a member quite early on from the kitchen drop and translate that into an actual attempt to put a case down, it's really, really well done, especially from what we saw in stark contrast to previous basement defenses where things were not going their way, but turning around for the offense here once again. Let's see if they can actually get these 3 rounds in a row as DarkZero are headed back to kitchen.
The immediate setup going to come out there from DarkZero as they establish all of their crosses. Thematically, nothing really going to change too heavily here to the game plan that DarkZero is bringing to the table. Still very, very heavy on these lighter roam-centric operators, including the Frost being brought in once again to this hole, as we've been seeing at least one other site play so far from DZ. Frost's pick rate overall this event has been skyrocketing, in my opinion, compared to previous events, but that's been as a result of a couple months now of her slowly trending upwards in the meta.
Yeah, she's actually got a 9% pick rate right now, which might sound quite low for some of you at home, but
that's compared to what it normally is at like 2 or 3%, if that, at most events.
Okay, for instance, let's go to someone that you would think would have a higher pick rate. Let's go to somebody more a little bit more strategy-oriented. Castle, right? We haven't seen too much play from him, obviously, because of Rooney and a bunch of different other things that have kind of pushed him out just a little bit, but he's only got a 4.7% pick rate. So, you know, it's the little things like that where Frost, yes, not seeing very much play, but she has more play than Pulse, has more play than Legion, Alibi, Castle. She's really working her way up there, and I like her for strategies like this. Obviously, it's not centralized around Hyper and his Frost mats, but if somebody hops into one of those on entry, I mean, come on, that's already worth its weight in gold, because either they're going to be at 20 HP or you'll simply have Eclipse shoot them as he's playing inside of stock right now.
This has been a really
there it is.
opening pick right there for Eclipse. Once again, it's DarkZero finds the advantage yet again at the beginning of round 6. But going back to my point there, I'm kind of curious because this event's presented a lot of variety inside of operator picks. And I'm very curious. I don't really know how we would mathematically calculate this, but I'd be curious to know if this is like the largest variety of operator picks we've ever seen at an SI, because it feels like that to me. But I obviously wasn't here for 2018 and 2017, so I can't call back all the way that far.
Well, statistically speaking, we indeed have more operators, so that would mean we probably have a little bit more, but
the mathematical difficulty.
Yeah, there you go. Either way, though, Fantasy's able to take down Eclipse. They knew he was inside of Barstock, excuse me. He'll 1-for-1 himself. Mint gets taken down as well, so Furia jump into the lead now with 1:30 remaining on the clock. They have everything in their arsenal in order to deal with this top hold. Remember, though, it is going to be a kitchen defense, so we'll be looking to see what Furia's adjustment could be. Are they going to attempt to clear out this entire top floor? Because they should be aware of the verticality currently going on, and it seems like they are aware. So via impact from down low, deals some damage to NJR, but not going to be enough to call home about just yet.
Yeah, well, more importantly, it missed the mute jammer that was sitting on the other side of that wall that I believe the intended target of the utility was used for there. So not going to be able to take down that wall, and I'm not sure. There we go. We're going to have to use one of the breaching charges from the Ash instead to get the job done. That's the benefit of bringing so much soft destruction, specifically range soft destruction, into the current meta. Nicely done from Fantasy. 2 out of 3 of the kills so far in this round coming out from him. As Furia look to make an impact in this final round of the half and completely the run back three-peat here at the end of the half for them to try and bring them back into the fold here after a little bit of a not too friendly start, but ever since they started winning those rounds and took a pause, things have certainly looked a lot better for them. The upstairs wall being open, the downstairs wall going to follow just a few seconds later as that deletes the rest of the hard destruction that Rare has access to. On the way in, though, not too friendly of a smoke angle. Unfortunately, just gives a POV right over to Hyper, tearing him up as he gets a 2-for-1. Lenda still presented a plant opportunity, and the problem is, once again, all they have to counter it is a top-down angle. This was the same issue as the last defense on this site. NJR can't find the counter yet again and is left stuck upstairs trying to retake in a 2v1.
Oh, this is so very unfortunate for NJR. The smoke blocking off the thermite. This time around, having access to the angle, but just not the vision. Onto the min, putting the case down. Now into the 1v2, SMG-11 in hand. Is he aware of the man tight right of him? No, he's not. Lenda playing this out perfectly for the cutoff here for Dining. Very well done from Furia on the clear, as well as the setup, as they are able to make the run back on these 3 rounds and equalize here before switching sides.
So Furia still in this fight after a bumpy start to the day, just kind of shaking things off, I guess, as we got into the beginning of the action there, especially
Might be a little tired, you know. Just you know, got to eat your Wheaties in the morning, get those good stretches in.
like jet lag after 2 weeks in the same place, you know. Yeah, don't really think that's an excuse anymore, but either way there, FURIA, after a noticeably bumpy start, a really great recovery from them ultimately to bring this to a 3-3 scoreline. Now the issue is, are they going to be able to present as strong as a defense as the second half of that attack was in order to keep things stable for them? As we have mentioned, generally speaking, it tends to trend in the other direction. Time to see if DarkZero can come back in with their own little comeback here now to try and shut down this first map, as we are obviously in best of threes now, no longer in best of ones. We were playing in the group stage.
Yeah, and that is the issue, right? Is DarkZero, even though it is the 3-3 scoreline, they just lost the last 3 defensive rounds. Technically speaking, they are still at a slight advantage because of how Chalet plays. So we'll see if DarkZero's offense can possibly link together some rounds and force FURIA back deeper down into that hole that we saw them in previously. As of right now, they're ready to spring to and see if they can take it to this DZ offense. It'll all start right now on a kitchen defense. Looks like they will be holding down the top floor. They'll be bringing Kaid instead, though, as, well, this lineup looking a hell of a lot different from what DarkZero's game plan was for this exact same site.
They're going to be a lot more centralized, I do believe, on the actual site itself in the immediate area. On top of it, DarkZero, of course, now out and about, so time to see how they are going to look to deal with the early extended game from FURIA, if there is much of it at all. Like we were just mentioning there, not seeing as heavily a commitment to that sort of play style as we were seeing from DZ. You can see that just from the spread of silhouettes on the map right now. Everybody much more set up to trade and play off of each other when compared to DarkZero's, which was a little bit more stretched out in that aspect, in my opinion.
Well, DarkZero bringing some new things into the fray here as well, as they'll be practically translating what they were doing on defense over to their offensive lineup. Lion, Zero, as well as Yana, all here in our traditional soft destruction, the likes of Asher, Zofia, which Zofia will be taken for Hyper, as well as Skies with the Thermite, but not running the smokes like we saw earlier. Instead, he will be on the stun. So a lot of info here for DarkZero to use in a bunch of different ways. I think the craziest thing being the fact that they can use NJR for more of a mobile info department, as well as Eclipse for the flank watch with those Argus or Sam cams.
Jared with a good drone setup there gets some counter intel into what's going on past that laser gauge setup on the inside of office.
Oh,
nicely done as well. That should allow them to take, do they want to take it out yet, or is Eclipse just not able to find it?
I think,
oh, he's going for that. Okay. I think he was trying to decide which piece of utility was better to take out there. Obviously, you had the option to remove the Electric Claw, but choosing not to do that under these circumstances and opting to remove the bulletproof camera instead.
Well, we'll be able to get rid of both of them either way, though. Although I'm sure some of us at home are like, why did he not just get the Electro Claw and get the wall? But obviously,
yeah, I was wondering why he was scooping around on the camera for like 10 seconds.
Tyler's literally just looking back and forth like, guys, I don't want to mess this up, please. Like, tell me what you want me to do.
Either way, that opens up an angle of attack for DarkZero to utilize. Not necessarily from the 90 angle, but the balcony is open for the taking. The problem is, like many sites, still need to transition it down another floor here onto that lower level attack. They have managed to flush out a large majority of FURIA's upstairs presence, though, by completing the opening of that wall and, of course, taking out the bulletproof cam, which was the safe info peak for one of the players playing to the inside of office there. Now they just mainly hold control over the solarium stairs, but in all honesty, that may be enough. DarkZero have stagnated slightly, not up to where they can't attempt the plant they're putting down, and as well, no, unfortunately, an angle presented to Rare just at the last second. Now, Clip's going to be able to trade on the highs, but here's the problem. That case is now down in the dining room. There is no easy way to get it back. They have to frag their way through this round, certainly trying their best to do so, but Rare is getting in the way. Eclipse finally ending that threat as he moves in, but the problem is a Toxic Babe doing some damage to him. He's got it down on the ground. FURIA, specifically Lenda, tearing it up, though, and Miracle sealing the deal with the final kill against Eclipse. FURIA just barely hold on there as DarkZero try their best to paddle past the defense, but without a second angle to execute into the site with, it's just not enough to breach the setup that FURIA has in the kitchen.
DarkZero are not able to translate any of the info that they're bringing on their offensive lineup to any picks at all onto FURIA, and especially given that DarkZero are forcing them off of the top floor. FURIA, instead of taking the engagement back off, play the solarium area, as well as transition a couple of their members down low below to be able to help defend the actual bomb site, and that's what wins them the round. DarkZero trying to put a case down inside of a 5v5, and the difficulty of that is there's just too many angles to worry about. Right there, Rare made that round for FURIA. There was truly nothing else that they could exactly do. Obviously, Miracle able to seal the deal, but it was really on to Rare with those first 2 initial kills that was able to slow up DarkZero and make it so very difficult for them to try and put that case down. And for the adjustment for DarkZero, especially with the amount of info that they have, it's just very strange that they don't have a cutoff somewhere on the back end of this. We saw Mint eventually translate or place himself right outside the bathroom window up here, but it was already pushed back. FURIA were already playing the Solarium area. That's where we saw Jaeger and all of that, as well as we didn't see anyone try to maybe make a possible rotate over to the trophy window or something like that. They simply need an angle to be pushing these members into to have an opportunity to possibly get a frag. It seems like they're getting a lot of this intel and they just simply can't capitalize upon it.
Yeah, the lack of any control going back towards the Solarium stairs really sealed the deal for me, did not allow for pressure to pinch the overall setup on FURIA, and on top of that provided essentially an infinite amount of reinforcements for FURIA to play off of inside of that kitchen hold. One player goes down, you can just rotate one from the Solarium hold, and you're relatively good to go because DarkZero wasn't able to properly pressure that other angle. We'll see if they can correct things, as obviously they're going to be attacking some similar parts of the map, just a little bit more directly this time as the sights have shifted upstairs into the bedroom and office.
Well, bedroom office defense as well as a Valkyrie working her way into the lineup. So FURIA having some info game of their own, as well as Vigil along for the ride to have an effect over all of these cameras. This could possibly be the best defender to play on Rome right now, given the circumstances. So many cameras being used by DZ as well as the EE1Ds, and Vigil counters all of it. Can't be seen by cameras, not affected by the EE1Ds either, as long as his ERC7 backpack is on. So we'll see if Rare can have a high impact round here for FURIA. Still on this basement roam. DarkZero seemingly aware though, but Hyper, immediately as I say that, will instead leave the trench area, hightails it up into West Main with the rest of the squad. So it seems like Rare will be allowed to exist inside of this round.
DarkZero immediately clearing things out towards Solarium this time. 3 to 4 players, in fact, committing themselves to that part of the map. Looking to try and transition that control over into an eventual site. Take Eclipse, one of the few that's going to stick outside on Repel and close by with the rest of the team, to be fair. So not super far away, but not immediately available to assist either should things get dodgy. DarkZero continue to open up the walls, I believe from the Solarium side there, as they look for the options needed in order to get in for an attack. Fantasy, in the meanwhile, going to make a wild play against Eclipse on the Repel outside. Not going to be too successful, though. Eclipse able to dodge that. Didn't see the lead up towards it, but no one taking damage from it. Fantasy stepping out again, more I think to get the intel that Eclipse is still there, and he does get it, but can't take any action with the reveal coming through. So he'll back up. I'm going to move over here towards Rare now, as Rare has some real potential to play in against the push from DarkZero, specifically the front lobby take. But at the same time, members of FURIA have to be careful. That plant going down, not looking like it's going to get stopped. Rare, once again, might be the playmaker on the inside of this round, trying to throw impacts out wildly in order to establish some bottom-to-top angles, but nothing being presented to him, as that case is securely planted on the ground, and DarkZero get themselves into a post play.
Well, FURIA not having the opportunity to run out that main door presents DarkZero with a hell of a cutoff on the double window for Master. Eclipse gets another kill from out there, trying to go for yet another DarkZero. It's a sea of blue right now as they take down every single member except Lenda, the last op that we are currently on right now, standing inside of office, attempting to get any frag possible, dealing quite a bit of damage to Eclipse, but cannot find any frag. The timer's already passed in this round, going to DarkZero. They'll tie it up 4-4, but not before Lenda's able to at least get one with the Deagle.
Shot from Lenda. Thought it was a headshot for a second there, but ends up just finishing off the player outside. A much simpler take there from DarkZero, and it works out perfectly for this specific site because they can approach the site overall with that more one-dimensional play, focusing on Solarium and just holding the alternate angles on the Repel from the outside window, and they aren't going to be punished too much by that, as they mainly just have to clear out the actual site room itself and can then just play to the angles from the inside of Solarium and the Repel that they had there. A much simpler take for DarkZero compared to what they were working with in the last round, and it plays out that way, certainly so, as FURIA unfortunately are not able to stop the pressure coming from that part of the map.
Yeah, they didn't even assume that that was going to be the area in which DarkZero were going to attack. I think that they assumed that it was going to be a library clear across, and that's not the case in the slightest. DarkZero abused them simply excuse me, because of that, and are able to hold on to quite a few angles upstairs. Obviously, we did see Rare have a pretty successful rotation as he took down Hyper inside of the hallway area, or you know, the main like kitchen area hall right outside of West Main. But either way, FURIA only really able to get that frag to assist them. Rare not able to produce anything down low. He tried multiple angles, tried to use the impact to find where the case was, but the post plant was already set up for DarkZero, and it was just too damn difficult for FURIA to try and work out. They didn't have the means to try and deal with the Solarium hold or Eclipse repelled on the Master Double.
So, I would argue not going to be as simple as time for DarkZero. You have to do the top clear for the most, or usually anyway. You have to commit yourself to the top clear, which is going to come into play, of course, once again on this round. Not to mention that as well, but you're going to need to establish a little bit more play potential for your team in order to get into the site. So, FURIA, I think their odds of winning this site going to go up tremendously compared to what we just saw from them if all the strategies remain the same. With that said, DarkZero do have a couple more direct routes into the site if they want to continue to take a more simplistic approach to things as they did in the last round, which, to be fair, worked out pretty well when they found the winning angles needed in order to take that upstairs control.
Okay, well, we'll see if they're able to do it again, because as you were just talking about, this clear, very, very important to this site, as DarkZero will be starting things off on Library here. Fantasy currently at the front of the pack for FURIA. So he's trying to defend this Library balcony. See how long they can hold on to that for. DarkZero still breaking up a lot of these windows around the map, just simply trying to establish angles and make it difficult for FURIA to rotate around like they once wanted to. You can see they already have quite a few things still centralized around Library. Drones in now and trying to find some sort of intel. That'll be the first EE1D from Mint as of right now. And DarkZero simply playing their game. This is something that we've seen from them in history. Slow and steady does indeed win the race, especially if you have info to go along with it. Already burning that second EE1D, I should honestly say, as it doesn't seem like they'll get too much traction out of it just yet. But obviously, calls in game going to be a little bit different. We only get one piece of the pie, as obviously we've been with NJR here for just a little bit. DarkZero still trying to clear out this top floor and have to be worrisome about a possible rotation from the north side, but still moving quite slow here as they're trying to find out anywhere where FURIA are currently lying in wait and have not been able to find that opening frag.
Patchwork being opened, one of the many steps that DarkZero needs to complete, but the job getting done. However, Miracle getting turned on by, or excuse me, Sky is getting turned on by Miracle right there as he finds the angle from below, pumps a couple pellets from the shoddy in from that position, and is able to take him out of the picture. A nice find that, of course, removes any of the remaining hard breach charges now from the utility pool that DZ had.
That's going to be quite a difficult one. Really getting some traction out of that Valkyrie camera upstairs inside of Library, but not before Eclipse is able to get the refrag. They've already set up the angles up top, so this entry shouldn't be too difficult, but now it's Mint. It's the only man inside a game, so get some assistance from Hyper, but Hyper has the case. He'll also be taking quite a bit of damage, but not before he's able to down Miracle, but it's a trade back and forth. Somebody needs to be able to pick up this case. Mint will pick that up in the back of Barstock, but has to worry about the verticality now. He has Eclipse in tow as well, but Eclipse has been down and dead as well. Finally getting that case back in his hands, but he's got to try and find some safe harbor, and that's the difficulty of the situation right now. Only 10 seconds remain. Yes, he will be able to pick Eclipse back up, but not right before Highs takes him right back down. Let's knock him down a peg, as well as finish off Mint, as FURIA jump back into the lead once again.
FURIA with some great defense outside of the site, specifically similarly to previous rounds, going unchallenged for the most part until that very late moment in the round when they're allowed to swarm the remaining members of DarkZero that are trying to take site control in just this tiny corner of the map overall. If you look at it from a top-down perspective, makes it very easy for them to isolate out any of the remaining offenders and take them out of the picture there. FURIA with the lead, yes, but just barely at 5-4. DarkZero has been fighting very hard for this lead, and I believe they're going to take a pause now that things are starting to get a little bit more difficult here.
Yeah, it's getting dicey for DarkZero, and honestly, the difficulty coming from FURIA's side. They've done a great job of managing the clock and knowing what DarkZero are currently doing with the map, especially inside of that round around the Library area. They had so much insight into that top floor because of the Valkyrie camera that went unchecked inside of Library. So they knew where multiple entry points were and exactly what DarkZero were doing. Truthfully, the only area getting caught off guard as Eclipse's top-down frag onto the Echo. But besides that, FURIA able to battle back up against DarkZero in every way, shape, and form. Obviously losing the smoke inside of bar stock, but they still had 3 members of FURIA rotating around the map and holding some off angles, able to take down Eclipse and just make Mint's life a living hell inside of those dying moments.
DarkZero need to find some way to control this extended game that we're seeing from FURIA right now. That's certainly the key element. If they're not able to do that, either through forcing the players back earlier on so they have more time to work on the angles necessary for a proper execute, or by outright killing those players, then these executes are going to continue to present problems to them for the rest of this map, as they're now behind FURIA, only 2 rounds away from securing the first map of the series. DarkZero, of course, looking to alter that as they need 3 overtime. Certainly in the cards with the way these teams have been trading back and forth.
Yeah, and just remind you guys, if you are just joining us, this is going to be the first map here inside of our all-out best of 3. Yes, folks, we did indeed make it to the final stage, so this is not all she wrote for DarkZero and FURIA, depending on who wins this map. And just to remind you as well, because this is a pretty interesting fold inside of the story between these two so far. Not only did they play each other previously at the end of the group stage, but also inside of these map choices alone. FURIA going with Chalet and DarkZero picking up Consulate against a LATAM team. Something that we don't see happen all too often, but obviously in recent history, Consulate's been getting a decent amount of play inside of North America, where, well, a team that's currently not here for our region, Disrupt Gaming, having quite a few good runs on that. So we'll see if DarkZero can try and channel some of the same energy.
Here's the other issue, of course, inside of this series, for anybody who may just be joining us or has not been following this tournament. This is a lower bracket matchup, so the loser of this one will, unfortunately, I believe anyway, be the first, at least on this stream, to be heading home a little bit early inside of the playoff stage here at SI.
Yeah, this is indeed do or die for these both of these squads right now. So that honestly might be one of the reasons why we saw FURIA being so passive early on inside of their offenses, just not wanting to give things up so early. But obviously, playing your own game is going to trump anything across the board when it comes down to it. You really want to be sticking to your game plan and everything that your team has set up for this event, not trying to change things up and you know, move yourself over into things that might be working for other people. But either way, right now, DarkZero need to find this offensive round and keep FURIA off of map point. Don't want to force Consulate too soon. They have an opportunity to take this map off of FURIA and win this in a clean 2-0 fashion.
A little bit of initial drone work coming out for DarkZero here. They're not going to find anything too concerning to worry about, save for that big stack of FURIA players over towards the office, piano, and bedroom positions here. NJR going to move into that. Hey, the Valkyrie camera getting spotted out this time. NJR quickly taking care of that since it's been pinged out, and with the rest of the team quickly encroaching upon that 90 position past the library. We're going to be able to see some pressure start to be applied to the piano room, as well as that setup in the office as well.
Well, FURIA should be holding on to this top floor for as long as they possibly can because of the verticality when it comes down to it. FURIA also using this exact same type of strategy, not exact same lineup, obviously, as they will more than likely be looking for a dining plant yet again. FURIA does still have some roam game going on, but that's specifically downstairs. They've pushed their Jaeger back into Solarium in tow with one other FURIA member to be able to hold on to that far side of the top floor and make DarkZero's life a little more difficult if it comes down to it. But they're still worried about this possible panel that they need to get open, and they actually need to start moving on this quite soon. They still have plenty of time to be able to do so, but still need to get dining open and have access to that if they want an opportunity to plant later on. And that's exactly what they'll begin doing. Hyper, especially with these concussions, starting to move forward and clear out piano, get rid of some of this utility. Skies with a nice frag onto Fantasy as well, as he'll be taking down the Jaeger that we saw over inside of Solarium a little while ago.
Not a whole lot going on in terms of combat in the map itself. A lot of players posturing between positions on the second and first floors more than anything right now, as DarkZero continues to take more and more control and prepares at least to start putting pressure into Trophy from the top of Solarium. You can see a lot of breaching charges, going down on the floor in order to open up that possibility, including one of the hard breach charges to fulfill that task, I believe, as well there, if that's not opening up something greater for the DarkZero players to use. Got the rest of them rotating back around here now. Stun charges out as they're going to continue flooding in, and it seems to be working. Members of FURIA slowly going down off of the charts here. It's down to Highs and Lenda, but Lenda's holding on inside of West Main. 2 kills in a row to equalize this into a 2v3. Problem is, though, they can't disrupt the case plant, and finally Lenda is going to be felled by Hyper. Up to Highs now, stuck alone in that same position in a 1v3. He's been spotted out as well. No safe harbor anymore. It's all frags from this point forward. First shutdown is there for Skies. The other two, more than likely, Highs will need to get aggressive for them, though, and that's the problem. Only 25 HP to play off of. Mint realizes that he goes for the swing and shuts down Highs to solidify another round for DarkZero, and I'm pretty sure tie us up yet again.
Very well done from DarkZero here. They go for the top floor clear, start clearing out all of the utility on site, but instead of going for the dining take and attempting to put that case down there where they ran into some trouble previously, they completely clear out the top floor, push into trophy, and plant inside of kitchen instead. And not only that, but they do it with less than 20 seconds off the clock. That was quite impressive given the circumstances for DZ. But as for FURIA, not able to clamber back into that round after DarkZero get the nice entry upstairs from Skies. The Fragmite play coming out on these offenses. So it looks like DarkZero do want to shift gears here, getting rid of the Zofia, moving Hyper on over to Ash. And he's been having a hell of a Chalet so far as well.
Yeah, obviously the 6 pick, nothing truly to write home about, to be honest. The Zofia flip over towards an Ash is not a meteoric shift in the overall composition. But aside from that, we are back to the upstairs hold yet again from FURIA, and this was by far the weakest of their play so far. So if there was ever going to be an opportunity for DarkZero to shift the dynamic of this matchup and try to end it early at a 7-5 scoreline, in my opinion, it would be here on this round.
Yeah, I would completely agree with you. I think that this right here is the make or break, and we'll have to see how it goes. This site, obviously a fan favorite and a team favorite as well. One that we never really got to see truly inside of the last Chalet. Actually, funny enough, John, I got a story about this site. Zeronic taught me how to defend this site a long time ago. It was like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, something like that. Back on the old Chalet with like a castle echo setup where you held the ladders and stuff like that. But as you guys can see, you don't truly have to do that anymore. This top floor has been extended quite heavily, a lot more space, room to breathe. It would be the best way to put it for the defenders, because in previous, inside of the previous map, obviously, it just simply felt like you were choking when you were on the defense. There really was an area for you to work with. A lot of sight lines just truly favored by the offense that you couldn't simply rotate through unless you risked dying. So you just simply had to play for that ladder play instead. But this time around, obviously, FURIA can play the mid floor like they're playing with Rare right now. Obviously getting a little aggressive, but doesn't have to worry about too much. And this is all, well, this can all be done simply because of the other adjustments made to this site. So thank you for Ubisoft for closing up the kitchen window down low as well.
Was curious to see how FURIA were going to try and patch up the issues on specifically the Solarium hold. And while, yeah, we see both Rare and Lenda getting extended out towards it, the problem is they're also the first 2 players to go down. So once again, DarkZero have that part of the map under their control. Now a good trade comes out, at least bringing DarkZero down to 4. So it's still a controllable situation for FURIA, but now they're going to be dealing with literally the same attack that they had to face off against the last time this was defended as well. And it was not a successful hold. So we have to hope that they've learned their lesson and can now not only successfully defend this, but defend it with a man disadvantage now.
Oh, Fantasy in a little bit of trouble up against Mint. Don't know if he's exactly aware of the man on his Solarium windows as well, as Mint will get caught off guard. Down to the 3 versus 3 now as Fantasy still with quite the forward position. Stuns out. He's been fully blinded. He'll hop inside of the stairwell, but is Hyper aware of him laying on the ground? He's not. He thinks he's a dead body. Sky's able to pick him up now. 2v2, but 1 minute and 4 seconds remain on the clock. This is going to seem like it lasts forever between these two squads as stuns still pouring out. Doesn't seem like they'll have the exact means in order to open up these panels like they once wanted. Miracle going to continue to play aggressive with the M590. Still has smokes at his disposal as well, as he'll keep the bathroom locked. But Eclipse now well aware that he's more than likely going to have to get off rappel here to assist Skies, so he'll do so. Start it up now. Skies obviously not getting taken out by the shotgun just yet. It seems like the mute possibly moving back, but Miracle, oh, the pre-fire. He takes down Skies on the repeat. It's Eclipse, the top frag right now for DarkZero to stop FURIA from getting to map point.
This was a good rotate from Eclipse. The problem is he doesn't have a teammate to support it. What a shot, though. Takes down Highs through the wall, primarily just off of sound intel. He's got 10 seconds left to locate Miracle. Just pre-fired on him, but he won't know it. Now he knows, though, as the repeat comes out, but he's not ready for the repeat as Miracle tries it a second time, takes down Eclipse, and shuts out the round for Furia.
So well done by FURIA there to slow down DarkZero. I mean, but you have to give it up to Miracle inside of that one. The smoke play, holding DarkZero at the gates. They can simply not get into sight. No area for Eclipse to work with to try and hold Miracle back from not only dealing damage to Skies, but also taking down multiple DarkZero members. You pair that with Fantasy, getting the frag onto Men, also somehow, some way, by simply jumping into the stairwell of Trophy, also takes down Hyper. I mean, that round right there seemed like no matter what DarkZero could do, it was going to FURIA.
Yeah, I mean, Fantasy really gets the gold star for me on that last round there. The heads-up play from him into Solarium, where he's able to translate those 2 additional kills against DarkZero. FURIA were fighting from the back already at that point in the round. They had to do something drastic to change their fate. Otherwise, DarkZero were just going to go through the motions that they did on the previous execute against this site. So, chaos is the way that they are able to solve that issue by throwing Fantasy into the fight there. And thankfully, for his sake, able to translate that into a 2-for-1 exchange, slowly letting them bleed their way back into the round and then play out the 2v2 from that point forward there. A very risky play, especially considering how they tried something similar in the early round and lost both of their extended players as a result of that. But the risk ends up panning out in their favor for that round, as it now puts them on map point first.
Well, FURIA have the opportunity right now to close out their own map choice inside of regulation. We'll see if this opportunity goes idly by, or if they grab it with both hands and run with it and force us onto Consulate early here without OT. DarkZero obviously out of the gates now and have the opportunity to change up this entire storyline, force us to OT and steal this map away from FURIA. They're going to be sitting with their similar lineup to what they've been running. Well, for most of this time, the only time that we saw a change up being round 11 with Hyper shifting on over to the Ash for just a split second, but he's already worked his way on back over to the Zofia instead. DarkZero worried about the possible rotations coming through right now for FURIA. Saw the bullet holes, but Hyper not able to connect to the FURIA member.
A quiet few moments here, as Mint does take quite a bit of damage, but unable to secure it overall. And the player on FURIA that is able to net that damage onto Mint. So Mint will stay alive for the time being, albeit at a very, very low amount of HP, but more importantly, alive with the E1D charges, and I think that's what matters more than anything at this point. He'll insert himself onto the inside of Solarium. Won't be alone in that process either. At least one other member of DarkZero should be joining him pretty close behind. You can see Skies right there on the rappel by the window in order to start really clearing out this second floor and moving DarkZero into an execute position.
Want more EE1Ds in for Men. Actually, this is going to be the first one for this round, just having so much Lion play here, losing track of those inside of my head, as DarkZero utilizing Lion every single round so far for their offenses, and obviously this could be the last. Still a lot of drones still left to use for DarkZero, but quite a few of them also destroyed. That's not the biggest deal when it comes down to it, though. Obviously, with the amount of intel game they still have at their disposal through their primary utility pieces. So DarkZero still simply trying to find this initial pick onto any of these FURIA members. They'll be using the second EE1D here, as they do have access to this entire top floor, all except for what seems to be a Jaeger being Fantasy inside of Office. So need to be able to get him out through some means, as this timer is getting dangerously low now. Last EE1D out for Mint, as DarkZero seemingly ready to push.
Mint presented an angle earlier against one of the players on the inside of Dining Room, but hasn't seen a peep since then from anyone on FURIA. Hyper walking right in. No one's watching the angle to stop him. They're all covering the crosses. Nobody's actually watching the main one, though. Rare quickly fixes that mistake and is able to correct the kill onto Hyper. But the problem is he's been self-isolated. They already know where the other two players are because of the first one that pushed in. That may not seem to matter, though. Lenda trying their best to hold on here as FURIA now stuck in a 1 versus 3. And you can see it. Min slowly crawling forward. He's been at low HP this entire round, but that's not going to stop him from making impact as DarkZero secure round 12.
Well, there's a bunch of Zero memes I can possibly say, but he was more looking like a, Metal Gear Solid Snake there. That's what it was going on, just slithering across the ground.
Put a box on him.
Exactly. You might as well, because Furia didn't even see him. That would have been the best thing ever, just crawling into sight with box. But either way, we forced it to overtime here between these two folks as DarkZero pick up the pieces of their offense and are able to solve the puzzle. That's a good thing. Able to push Furia back upstairs. I think that's the biggest thing. Obviously, leaving Fantasy what seemed to be on an island upstairs as he gets forced back over towards the library area. DarkZero simply have all of the control necessary to be able to put a case down inside of dining, and that's exactly why we see Mint and the rest of DarkZero hop 2 on that last EE1D. They realize Furia are all pushed back, into kitchen. They're all pushed back into dining, and they simply handle that with Hyper pushing in, able to get that initial frag. Obviously, he gets traded, but they get all of the insight necessary to know, hey, kitchen is clear. We can simply hold on to the kitchen into dining door as well as west main, and we should be able to get this case down, especially with the top control that we have. And that's exactly how it went. Furia not able to translate any of the map control DarkZero had back into their favor.
Well, the recovery for Furia continues, although not strongly enough to where they can end things in regulation. If they want this map, they're going to have to take it in OT now. And with Furia starting out on the defense, we'll see if that presents enough of an advantage for them to be able to leverage ultimate victory inside of this round, and the one not coming up immediately after this, but following so. Is obviously, for anybody who might be watching us that's newer to see, just a quick little reminder there that these sides now will flip every single round since we've entered OT. Clips just sending out some of those cameras real quick. Each of them have one charge to deal with any piece of utility you can shoot at, and in this case, it's just going to go down and replace the default cam that it shot out for the attackers.
The attacker's bomb diffuser has been dropped.
He basically just took away their intel and was like, okay, well, now we have our own. Fireplace is all ours, and so is your heads! Miracle with the double, but they immediately fire back. What is this round so far? I was not expecting this. It's a double for Miracle, excuse me. Highs gets taken down. Eclipse moves back into bar stock, but not before Fantasy retakes now. The case still down right inside of the game's window, so DarkZero have to try and fight out of this 2v2.
It's a 2v2 and there's 2 minutes left on the clock. What is this? This is not how Siege normally goes, at least inside of our region anyway. But Furia, even being challenged by a very aggressive DarkZero, and nearly seeing both teams close it out on the inside of these opening few moments. Miracle, a brilliant hold, 2 beautiful headshots coming out on the SMG-11 to really save Furia's chances on the inside of this round, as they certainly were not expecting such a fast execute from DZ, but have been able to fend it off temporarily anyway.
Oh, that was, I'm just going to give that to Hyper. That was a hell of a drone toss right there. It just caught right on the wood. That was quite impressive. So either way, though, he's going to be using that to drone outside, not necessarily sit into the old reliable drone spot that surely everyone knows if you have indeed played Chalet before. But either way, DarkZero at the gates right now. But Fantasy and the rest of Furia currently prepared for this 2v2, now a 1v2 in favor of the defense. It's down to Sky as the team captain right now for DZ to try and get this play to go off. Does still indeed have a stun. Has to worry about a possible Banshee slowing him down. He'll be able to get rid of that as well, but obviously not having case control. A nice cutoff here from Fantasy as there's just too many angles to worry about for Skies inside of round 13, and that's why it goes the way of the defense.
Roundlet starts with so much hope for DarkZero as they try to put an aggressive foot forward, but unfortunately, their hopes are immediately dashed by Miracle, trading it out down to an even fight where DarkZero try so hard to leverage that 2v2 into a winnable situation by the end of the round. Not going to happen, though. Furia ready on the site to shut it all down, and they now take the lead, as Sam mentioned, as we head into overtime match point. Still need that definitive final round, though, and now DarkZero going to be on the defense towards the basement as well. Probably the least played site inside of this map so far. I think only DarkZero has played this so far, so we're going to be making a return to it once again now that they finally get a chance to jump on the defense.
Well, yeah, let's run over this real quick. And yes, you would be 100% correct, John. Furia
nice.
Never going downstairs, and
oh, my memory's working today.
there you go, buddy. The brain's on. The noggin is fully fueled and ready for launch. So we'll probably have to contact like SpaceX or something. You know, get like flight parameters and everything. You know, it'll be good. Either way, but
Attackers have located a bomb.
going back to Wine Cellar and Snowmobile, and talking about this site overall, this actually for like the initial. Actually, actually, I believe, still inside of the NAL. If you go check the stats page on the competitions tab for CGG, worst bomb site in our entire region, which is crazy because we've seen it played a decent amount here and actually found some success as well on Chalets throughout the Six Invitational. DarkZero are looking to channel that energy, hoping they can possibly shut down this offense once again. Obviously, the very first time that we saw FURIA go for this attack, it was very, very quick as they tried to bully their way into Snowmobile with some stuns in order to clear out ADSs and a frag grenade to get rid of the mute jammer. Immediately slapped down that exothermic and rushed into Snowmobile, but not before DarkZero put them through a blender and were able to win that round. So FURIA definitely not wanting that to strike twice, as well, they're out onto the field and they're ready to go to war.
And they're just going to be quickly opening up some of the barricades here, and we'll probably end up chilling out on rappel for some time, or in this case, the roof of the building, as the rest of FURIA do get prepared to make their initial entry. Probably going to end up taking some control over here towards Library, as it is relatively open, save for Hyper. But it's important to note, Hyper does not have the support you would normally get from a player in this position right now. No deployable shield, no actual reinforcements from what I can see, so this will be a very passive hold from DarkZero. They will probably fall back very easily if they are pressured too much for their own liking.
Oh, getting risky right now for both of these teams. Obviously, this map currently on a knife's edge. Could go either way, but DarkZero obviously still trailing in, behind in comparison. Lenda and the rest of FURIA still trying to find this initial frag. They're aware of the situation, at least upstairs, as to what NJR could possibly be doing, but he's already left instead. He's popped the master hatch and dropped down into kitchen. Still has a DarkZero member with him as well, as FURIA mostly centralized around this library area. We're only halfway through now, though, as they still could possibly try to clear out the rest of this mid-floor, but doesn't seem to be exactly the case. They obviously still have access to those air jabs for Miracle, so could just cut this entire building off at the halfway point, but would have to possibly worry about any DZ member with impacts making a rotation.
All quiet on this round. DarkZero not wanting to play too aggressively as well. They're about to be eliminated, and the pressure's on, as you can see here. Highs ultimately just yeeting 4x Kairos right onto an electrified hatch, so those will get deleted pretty quickly, and he'll have to reattempt that once again in a moment. So small mistake there, but thankfully should still have 14 more aside from that, and indeed he does. So nothing too major getting wasted just as of yet here. Down to 40 seconds though, and still so quiet across this map. And also the map relatively unexplored, meaning that this can happen. NJR running out, getting a solid 5 seconds of free vision before even reacting to Highs' own position. Lenda also nearly being caught, I believe, by the same player. FURIA now finding some exchanges though, as both Miracle and Fantasy find picks. They're just barely surviving an encounter versus Skies. He's low HP. Miracle the same versus NJR. Everything to Mint, but he's going nuclear to try and survive here. Remember, the timer playing into his favor right now. The smoke out may nearly burn a player down here. Lenda's at a sliver of HP. There we go.
No way.
Shotgun pellet to down Lenda.
No, Mint.
Not gonna work out though, as Mint gets too aggressive right into the spray from Fantasy, and FURIA claim the first map.
Oh my, Mint, he was so unbelievably close, John. He downs the other member. It's only a single FURIA player remaining, but he doesn't know that he downed the thermite. Instead, the Zofia takes control. FURIA take control, and map 1, in convincing fashion, I'd say, an OT for FURIA, are able to take control, especially after that initial offense. Very well done from them, but this is not over yet, folks. We got Consulate just around the corner, and I can say I'm pretty damn excited.
Yeah, what a game from the individuals there on FURIA, specifically after that 0-3 start to the matchup as well. Let's be honest, I'll be honest, FURIA looked like a freaking mess at the start of this game, and they were able to turn it around definitively to take solid control inside of that. A scary moment still as Mint nearly clutching things out in that final round and taking us to round 15, but ultimately FURIA are still able to control the situation, take control of the round, and take control of this map. That's going to set up a 1-0 lead for them. Obviously, still more maps to go, though, and more analysis to be done, as we're going to throw it back to Kix and Parker to break down that game.
Well, thank you very much, John, and thank you very much, Sam, as well. Michael, that was an absolute mess of a matchup. I think they put that pretty well
Yeah.
FURIA seemingly found fire after those 3 rounds. Do you think there was a particular turning point for them in that map?
I think that in the first half, it definitely seemed like FURIA started to clutch up. I mean, it was 3 rounds in a row, answered by 3 rounds in a row. FURIA on the second half there of the attack, they did really, really well. I don't think there's anything in particular that gave the advantage back to the attackers there. I just think that they started to sort their stuff out and figured out how DZ played on Chalet on defense.
It was crazy to me watching these 2 teams do battle, and we'll have the replays up on your screen. There were some very big clutch moments here. But, I mean, if you just look at these stats, just what you saw, when they were on defense, even though they split the first half, DarkZero walked away with 5 of the 6 opening picks, and the second half they walked away with 3 of those 6. So they were much better when in terms of finding that scoreboard, and they came at a respectable amount of time for the most part. But then, if you look at multi-kills for the remainder of that matchup, there were 0 multi-kills on the board from DarkZero. There was 4 for FURIA. In terms of plants going down, FURIA were better with the objective play as well. So, is this just teams starting to figure out Chalet? Is this just teams settling into their grooves? Did the tactical timeouts pay dividends the way that we would hope they would?
10 seconds to go.
It's totally possible. I think that for this map, I don't give any particular credence to the fact that either team were more adept at Chalet than what we've seen in the past. I still think there's a lot of sloppiness here. There's a lot of room yet to grow. Both of these tacks were incredibly slow, whether FURIA or DarkZero. Both of the teams even tried a rush strategy. Neither of those strategies worked, and that's definitely something that you have to keep in mind. If you're not able to make your speed accelerate on attack, you're going to have problems.
Now, did you have a team that you favored going into this matchup? Because I think we need to talk about predictions and the impact this map is going to have.
No, I didn't have a team that I favored going into this. DarkZero's played Chalet a lot more in the group stages, but it wasn't great results for them. FURIA played it once, and they didn't manage to win it. Overall, I don't think that either of these teams really were adept at this map. As I talked about earlier, still a lot of room to grow, and it could have gone either way. I mean, look at this moment here from Mint. This was the big question mark moment. I think a lot of people were talking about this one. I know I was flabbergasted when Mint ran in there. And I think moments like that and how close they are really go to show this could go either way.
Do you think going into Consulate that the pendulum has moved? Do you believe that the favorite going into this matchup has changed after you saw the results of Chalet?
No, I don't think so. I think that DarkZero is still in a good position. They just need to center themselves. This was, of course, FURIA's map pick. DarkZero were the ones who wanted to go to Consulate, so that's where they're going now. And this is their chance to bring it to Villa, the 3rd map of the series, if they can manage it. Given the performance we just saw, I think it's definitely likely we'll see a 3rd map.
I want to note as well that if you looked at the time when Mint started to push, the timer was at 0 and there was no diffuser going down. So I don't know if that was Mint doing it because he thought that maybe he had more time. Oh, I'm not entirely certain.
It's rough.
But
I mean, you get results like that sometimes, though, in those clutch situations. And I mean, it wasn't the only thing that made up that matchup. I mean, we saw a lot of interesting things going on there. The Abundance of Frost play, the Lion from DarkZero. That was really useful in helping counter the play we saw from FURIA. FURIA's defensive setups, by the way, were some of the most passive defensive setups I've ever seen. That's FURIA reading into the fact that the attacks are slow. And they were right to do so. I mean, that really passive setup that FURIA had for every defensive round got them a lot of crucial rounds. And eventually, DarkZero started to figure it out, but it was a little bit too late at that point.
one thing that's been talked about from North America, it doesn't matter what region you're coming from, the most observable fact of the NA League is how slow all of the North American teams are. It doesn't matter which team it is. Whether it's because of roster moves, whether it's because of an unfamiliarity with the meta, every single NA team waits until 20 seconds is announced, and then they push. It doesn't matter if they have map control. Their attacks are way too lethargic, and it's going to come back to bite them. So time and time again, teams can take full advantage of that, and I think it took some time for FURIA to find out what to do, but once they did, they started to show some confidence.
They certainly did, Parker. Really well played from FURIA. I also really like, if we're talking about cool things that we saw in that match, the way that DarkZero used